Hey BC, it's Dave here. I'm on again to support another channel. The channel's name goes by comic Rhema. He's a young man out of the LA area, and I think he's been on YouTube for about a year now, but he's having this holiday contest, more or less. I guess that's what it is. It's sort of holiday themed with love, peace, and joy or happiness. And Comic Rhema has a pretty broad taste, so I thought I'd present a pretty broad selection of albums for his contest. And so here it goes. The first thing he wanted you to do, and I'll put links below if you're interested in entering, but he wanted you to show a record album with the word peace on it, and this is the one I thought of. This is King Crimson's second album, I believe, In the Wake of Poseidon. And when I first bought this after the first album, which is, you know, is classic album, well known in the VC and the court of King Crimson. I believe this is their second effort, if I'm not mistaken. But I kind of thought this was a letdown when I first bought it. But it wasn't meant. It was many years later I decided to, you know, try and get into it. And I read a few things about it, and it really helped me to get into the album. But on this album, it starts out with Peace, a Beginning. I don't know if you can see that on there. Peace, a Beginning. It's kind of like, it's not really themed, but in a way it is. It starts out with Peace, a Beginning, which is, if I'm remembering right, is just a short intro. And then right here on the 5th track, it says Peace, a Theme, which is a real light sort of acoustic or nylon string guitar short piece, which follows right into Cat Food, which is really just the opposite of the acoustical thing. Cat Food is a real kind of static or erratic song in a way that's brought on by the way the piano is played. I don't find it hard to get into. I mean, for sure it's real different and sort of a shock to the system. Kind of like that first song on In the Court of King Crimson was. But it's a real interesting song, and if you like Mellotron, there's a lot of that on this album. And then of course, after it goes through all these different changes, which is generally how progressive rock does, it ends with peace and end as well. So In the Wake of Poseidon. The second one was Show an Album with Love in the title, and this is I don't know if you can see it. It's got an embossed cover, but it'll be hard to see on here. It's Santana's second album, Welcome, and the first song on, let's see, no, it's the yeah, it's the second song. It starts out with Going Home, and the second song here is Love, Devotion, and Surrender. So it has the word love in it right here. And this is a real good Santana album. I don't know how much this is shown on the VC, but this one came right after, I believe, Caravanserai, so this would have been their 4th album maybe, or 5th. But yeah, it has kind of a, you know, if you like, it tends more to be towards jazz, and if you like jazz and that sort of spiritual jazz, I think it kind of has that feeling on here. So yeah, it's a real good album. It's one I listen to even today. Welcome by Santana. Then this George Benson has several songs with love in the title. Feel Like Making Love. Inside Love, So Personal, Lady Love Me, One More Time, and Love Will Come Again. Now some of those, I haven't heard this album in a while, but some of these, Feel Like Making Love is a cover song, and I think one of these others is a cover song too, but you might know George Benson from his sort of light jazz albums, and yeah, so that has several songs about love on it. Here's one by Dave Holland, Jumping In, Dave Holland Quintet, with these players on it. And the last song on the second side, You I Love, which is right here, is included on this album. And for a Dave Holland album, this is actually a fairly upbeat album. A lot of his or like his earlier albums tend to be more moody or reflective, but this one is a little bit more upbeat than his normal stuff. So yeah, You I Love by Dave Holland Quintet on the Jumpin' In album. Now, love is a constant theme in poetry. Love and death, I think, are probably the two biggest themes in poetry and probably music as well, since it had, you know, it's like poetry in a lot of ways. Here's one by called Love Me on this Eric Dolphy album, Eric Dolphy Memorial album. Has a lot of good players on it. Of course, Eric Dolphy, but Clifford Jordan, Woody Shaw, I don't know. If you like, Richard Davis plays bass on it. If you like Eric Dolphy, you'd probably enjoy this. He hardly ever made a bad album, so you can't hardly go wrong. But yeah, the song Love Me is on it. And then he wanted to show an album with the word joy on it. And this is the first one I thought of. It's Leo Kottke's, I think this is his first album or one of his earlier albums, 6 and 12 string guitar. On it has the song Jesus, Joy of the Man's Desiring, which is a Johannes Bach piece that he covers on this album. And as a tidbit, did you know that Bach had 20 children? I didn't know that. He had 20 children from 2 different wives. But yeah, he had a big family. So yeah, Leo Kottke is just an acoustical guitarist, and I believe he was originally from Oklahoma or Minnesota, I'm not sure which, but Jesus, Joy of Man's Suffering. The third thing he wanted to see was show an album with lights on it, I guess like festive lights or whatever. And I found this album here. This is Romeo Void's Instincts album, sort of a punk, post-punk, or a new wave type band out of California somewhere. But they had a lead singer, and they have lights on the back as well. They had a lead female singer, and one of the guys plays saxophone on here. I like their first album a lot better. This is, I think, their third album, and I don't think it's quite as good. I don't think they ever had another album as good as that first one, but it's okay. Then here's another one that's a little bit more famous. This is the live album by Bob Dylan and the band. Of course, the audience are, you know, holding up cigarette lighters and whatever for the, I assume there's an encore or whatever they're doing that for. But yeah, Bob Dylan and the band Before the Flood. And then, let's see, he said show something that is comic book related. Now, I've kind of read comics for a long time. I started reading them when I was a kid, way back in the 50s and 60s. This is the latest thing I was reading. It's just a real small digest book, Lone Wolf and Cub, and is a manga, or manga, I think is how they say it, or manga. But yeah, it's just a story about a assassin type of samurai warrior that's hired out by one of the, I guess, feudal lords, and as his professional killer, and he's going over to one of the areas in Japan and is going to assassinate the leader of that part. But real interesting little manga or manga. This is one by R. Crumb, the R. Crumb Handbook. It's kind of overview on Robert Crumb's underground years, and has a little bit of everything in here. It's got comics and some of his greeting card artwork in it, and it's got some of his comics as well. I guess that's him as a young person. His Fritz the Cat thing that he worked on, and just an overall thing about his career. Sometimes Robert Crumb could be rather controversial and get a little bit perverted in some of his comics, so this one isn't as bad as some of his stuff, but it's kind of more catered towards adult sensibilities. But also comes with a little record or CD sampler in it of his music, and so if you're interested in what he enjoyed or enjoys musically, then there's that as well. Here's one that I think everybody should read, which is Art Spiegelman's Mouse. If you're interested in it, most libraries in the States handle this, so you can check it out and read it. This is the first part. It comes in 2 parts, and Art portrays different people as the mice are portrayed as the Jewish people in here, and you've got the pigs that are portrayed as Polacks, and the Germans are portrayed as cats. And it's just about his father telling him about being rounded up by the Germans in World War II, and being sent off to the concentration camps along with Art's mother. But for a comic book, it's a really pretty powerful tale, and well worth checking out at the library or buying. This is American Splendor by Harvey P. Carr. Harvey P. Carr was a cartoonist or a writer out of Cleveland. He also wrote jazz reviews, and actually R. Crumb started illustrating some of his earlier stories, like this one here. But what I like about this particular volume is Harvey P. Carr talks about record hunting. He and Crumb were big record fans, and so there he is going over to a friend's house and looking for records. And he was also a clerk there at the Veterans Hospital. But yeah, that's a kind of a tie-in to music. in that he liked records, and sometimes he'll drop names of some of the, you know, in his time, he was a few years older than me, drop names about certain bebop artists that he liked back in the day, or you know, so forth, and was rather obsessive about it, which I guess we all can be. But there's also like other different artists in here as well that fit well with his storytelling. Here's one called Hustling Sides. He refers to records as sides, and I guess that was the slang up there in Cleveland, or from that time period. But he'd buy them, he'd sell different records to people at work and all that kind of thing. But yeah, this is the life and times of Harvey Pekar. And yeah, there's a second volume too, which is like this, and I think they've got both of these in one big anthology now. But then, like, he just has a bonus thing. It says show some Christmas music, and generally around this time of year I kind of prefer stuff like this. This is Windham Hills, a winter solstice, and it just has various artists on it, and that's one of the reasons I like it. I've got several of these artists on albums, but I don't have a lot of these particular songs. But yeah, I do like these solstice albums. I think there's several, like all the way up to, I don't know, 6 or 7 volumes of them. This is one that Mother and Dad used to listen to back in the day. We always used to watch Andy Williams on the TV. He had Christmas specials and whatnot, and yeah, it has White Christmas on it, and you know, all the famous Christmas songs, Little Drummer Boy, Oh Holy Night, and stuff like that. This is one by Ella Fitzgerald. Swinging Christmas, wishes you a swinging Christmas. And again, it has Christmas themes on it: Sleigh Ride, Good Morning Blues, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, stuff like that, but real fun interpretations of the song. This is Garrison Keillor's, who had Prairie Home Companion, and I forget what he called it. He had a second show that he came out with, and I forget what it was called. But they're just stories, Christmas stories, that are sort of around his community up there. So yeah, real fun. There's music on it too as well, real folksy. But yeah, I used to listen to Garrison Keillor all the time on NPR radio. This is one that says Country Mountain Christmas, and it has it's sort of interesting because it has unusual interpretations of different Christmas songs. It features stuff like a hammered dulcimer, mandolin, guitar, dobro, fiddle, auto harp, and string bass on it. So I like that kind of thing. It just has a real, you know, with the dulcimer and the hammered dulcimers and stuff like that, it has a real wintry feel to it. So anyway, wanted to enter that for Comic Rhema's contest and show a little support. And I think his contest is up in December, something like that. So if you want to enter, you still have time. I'll leave a link below. Anyway, this is Dave, and I'll let you go. Have a happy upcoming Christmas and a good Black Friday.